Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Live from Altispeed Technologies, the Ask Noah show starts right now. This is the show where we came to do all the things on Linux they said couldn't be done and take your questions on how to do the same. The phone lines are open this hour to be a part of the program. It's a free call, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624, or send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. My name is Noah Chalai. I am your host. Delighted to be here with you this hour as another episode of the Ask Noah show kicks off this hour. This is going to be an exciting episode for a couple of reasons. We're going to kick the episode off with an absolutely ginormous announcement. And then later in the hour, Eric Dubois from Arco Linux joins us. Now, we were originally going to have Jason Donenfeld from WireGuard join us, but some stuff came up at the last moment, and Jason wasn't able to join us, but Eric was. And so Eric's going to be able to join us, and we're going to have a discussion about Arco Linux. And if you haven't heard about Arco Linux, man, are you guys in for a treat. But we have some really, really big news at the Ask Noah show. We want to open the program. We're excited to share this with you. And before I do, I kind of want to set this up just a little bit, because what I have learned since joining the Linux Action Show is if you don't give the community all of the information, and you try to take the high road and just say, hey, here's what's happening, and here's some basic reasons why, but I don't really want to get into the details, what the community will do to you is they will create a narrative. And in my experience, 10 out of 10 times, the narrative that they build is about 50 times worse than the actual dirty laundry that we just didn't want to get into, or I didn't want to get into. So I want to set the stage very, very carefully, and I want to give all of the information out there so that nobody can create a narrative. If we're going to create a narrative, I'm going to tell you what the narrative is because I know, because it's my news. And I want to set it up this way. You have to understand that Chris Fisher is the kind of guy that everybody wants to work for. And I say that because he does a couple of things very, very well. First of all, he is the kind of guy that expects a lot from you, but rewards good performance, rewards when you deliver on a product, when you deliver what he asked you to do, with more rope. And the expression that he's used is, he'll give you enough rope to climb somewhere or hang yourself. And some people hang themselves, and some people climb to bigger and better things. The other thing I would say about Chris is that he is your biggest fan publicly and your harshest critic behind closed doors, which as a broadcaster is something that I will forever be grateful for. And actually, I was having a conversation with him last week, and I was telling him, I'm entering into a second career, essentially, with radio broadcasting. And the person that I want in my corner more than anybody else is Chris, because I know that he has the product's best interest at heart, and he has my best interest at heart. And so if there's anybody I want advice from, it would be him, because he's an incredibly talented broadcaster, and he will find the details that can make your show, that will take your show from an 8 or a 9 to an 11. And so that's who I have worked for a number of years, and why I have appreciated working for him. And the story I want to tell to set this up was actually, it's not mine, it's a story I heard actually on the radio a couple of months ago. And the story was of a guy whose father had worked for a company called Alcoa Aluminum. And Alcoa Aluminum made aluminum products. And one day, this man and his wife were having Thanksgiving dinner at his father's house, and his wife wrapped their side that they brought in Reynolds wrap. And his dad, seeing it on the table, picked it up, walked across the kitchen angrily, and threw the entire dish into the garbage and said, Alcoa Aluminum put dinner on this family's dinner on this family's table for 40 years. How dare you bring a competitor's product into this house? And it was it's that kind of loyalty, and it's that kind of put the shield first above all else kind of attitude that I really relate well to. I suppose partly because I'm a small business owner, but also because it's the kind of person I am. And so when I joined Jupiter Broadcasting, I was super happy to do everything the Jupiter Broadcasting way. I knew that they had a recipe that worked for the Linux Action Show. I knew that Chris had a workflow that he was committed to. I knew that he had a publishing process that really worked. And when I went to do fill-in work, I didn't use my own intro music. I didn't make up my own intro. I didn't stray from the format of any of the shows. I did Coder the Coder way. I did Lup the Lup way. I did Last the Last way. I did everything the JB way because I felt that was the respectful, right way to do that kind of programming. And that's not to say that Chris and I agree on everything, because he'd be the first person to tell you that shows like Linux Unplugged formatically were specifically designed around his personality and the way that he likes to do things. I would not make many of the same decisions that Chris makes, and I'm sure Chris would not make many of the same decisions that I make with my show. But there is an immense amount of mutual respect between us that I can't even begin to explain to you. I can never put it into words, and you would have to see us in person to understand that kind of mutual respect. But I set the story up this way because I want to make sure that I am abundantly clear. I am not a guy that quits. It's not lost on me that I am where I am today in my broadcasting career because of Chris, because of Jupiter Broadcasting. And I want to see Jupiter Broadcasting succeed. I would have liked to see JB become the C-SPAN of tech. I would have liked to host more shows. And throughout my entire time at JB, I have never stopped asking one question. What more can I do? Can I fill in? Can I host a new show? Bring back Plan B. #. Even if it meant doing content out of my own pocket, I was not only willing to do that, but I was elated for the opportunity to make this network a success because I believe in this network's mission to my core. And I'm extraordinarily proud of the work I've done here on JB. And there isn't a day that goes by that I am not immensely thankful for everything this network and Chris personally has given me. Now, when last ended, I had essentially three choices. I could step away from the mic, I could start a competing show, or I could do a show at no cost for JB. If I stepped away from the mic, that wouldn't have been a great choice for me at that time because I had so much to say. I had so much content I wanted to make. I like helping people. I love being a part of the community. And frankly, I have a big ego. Starting a competing show, also it just wasn't a choice for me. One is I have too much respect for what Chris and Jupiter Broadcasting were trying to do. And second of all, I'm not the guy that quits. So that left me with a third option, which was do a show at essentially no cost to Jupiter Broadcasting. Now, that was the obvious choice. And let me be clear, it was never about money. I promise you, if I had even hinted at the fact that I needed some money to do the show or if I needed resources to do the show, I know Chris's character enough that somehow, despite the fact that they had a shoestring budget, they would have found a way to make it work. Now, knowing Chris, that would mean that he would just not eat on Fridays or something like that because the network just didn't literally have the money to do it. But if I had even hinted that that was something I wanted, I promise you he would have made it work because that's the kind of guy he is. But I wanted to do the show at no cost. I wanted to add value to this network. I wanted to be able to compete with other Jupiter Broadcasting shows, but I wanted it to ultimately benefit JB. They get all the support. They reap all the benefits. I bring in new listeners. Doesn't matter. If I do a bad job, they're not really out anything because I bought the studio. I furnished the cost. I edit the show. But if it does work out, if I am right about some of the new and exciting things I wanted to try, then it brings new listeners into the network. And ultimately, JB moves forward. And that's really what I wanted to see. But when we launched the Ask Noah show over a year ago, we're coming up on episode 100. And let me tell you, doing 100 episodes of anything is one of the things that, it will make you think and you will learn a lot of hard lessons. If I was going to do a show, if I'm paying for the studio, if I'm scheduling the guests, I'm hosting the show, I'm editing the show, I'm publishing the show, I'm promoting the show. And by the way, that last one, promoting the show, I spend about twice as much time promoting the show as I actually do hosting and prepping the show, which is hours and hours a week. If I was going to do a show that way, I'm doing it my way. I'm doing it the way that I think a show should be done. So everything from the name of this show down to the studio it's recorded in was ensured and put in place to make absolutely positively sure that the cord could never be unplugged. 10 years from now, I promise you, you will still be able to listen to the Ask Noah show. We will still be taking your calls. Maybe they'll be over SIP. Maybe they'll be overmumbled. Maybe the technology will evolve. But I promise you, this show I will never stop working as hard as I'm working today to make this show a success. The cord cannot be unplugged. I don't believe in partnerships. Any of you have listened to me for any amount of time know that I don't believe in partnerships. And so frankly, that's why I don't have a co-host. There isn't a place for a co-host on this show because this show is unfettered, unashamed Linux passion. And that is not for everybody. And if I'm going to set an ideal and work closer every single day to get to that ideal, which is the Linux desktop, and share my passion for other people to get them into the Linux desktop environment, then that means that I can't have somebody sitting next to me on a mic going, well, but Windows does have its advantages sometimes. I have always viewed my relationship with Jupiter Broadcasting and Chris that I worked for Chris. And so frankly, the only person I would have ever trusted to have a microphone next to me, and to why he's the only person that's ever really guest hosted a show with me, is Chris. Lately, we have been getting into some, I don't know, muddy waters, I guess if you want to say. We've been talking about some politics. And it's not that I chose it. It's that that's what the Linux community has thrown at us, so that's what we talk about on this show. And as social justice warriors do, they tend to make trouble. First time we talked about it, I had people and organizations calling the show, calling me personally. The second time we brought it up, I had people calling Altispeed. I had people calling the radio station I work for. Everybody was out to try to make sure they understood what a terrible human being I am for bringing these guests on and allowing them to express their opinion and asking some neutral, what I think are fairly neutral questions. And throughout that entire time, never once was I ever asked to censor content, remove content, which is a good thing because I'm not afraid of any topic for any reason at any time. Let me tell you something. Come to a conservative radio station and tell them that you're upset that we irritated a bunch of social justice warriors and try to start a fight. I mean, I get promoted if somebody, if they really drug that out, make a big deal out of it to the point that the radio station can make some news out of it. I'd get a raise. But when people do bad things, we're going to talk about it. When people do bad things itself, we're going to talk about it. When the chief developer of the Linux kernel steps down, we're going to talk about that. I don't care if it's unpopular. I don't care if you think it's silly. I'm going to give you my opinion on those things because, one, I'm a master of my opinion, and two, we don't shy away from any topic. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't cause a ruckus. And I have been very, very clear with Chris, and then by extension Linux Academy and Jupiter Broadcasting and the radio station that this show airs on. If I am ever asked to censor content, you're done. You lose the show. Because that's just not what we're about. I'm not interested in being unauthentic. So last week, I got a call from Chris, and we started having a conversation. I think it was primarily spawned because of all of the special episodes that we had scheduled. And I said, and Chris had asked me, he said, how would you like to take your show independent? And my very first thought was, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? And I remember my first question back to him was, do I need to step away from the microphone? Is this it for Ask Noah? Because honestly, my friendship with Chris is more important to me than the show. And so as committed as I am to bringing you high quality content every single week, and I'm willing to do that for the next 10 years, not willing to do that at the detriment of a friendship. I can't do it. So that was my first question was, do I need to step away from the mic? No, that's not what this is at all. And I thought, well, maybe it's because my idea of competing within a brand wasn't working. The whole Tide Bounty thing. Maybe that was a horrible thing. And so then all these ideas started coming through my head. Like, well, I've got one foot in the door already with political radio, and so I don't really need to be in the Linux space. I could just go do my political broadcast and just kind of go all in over there. And in my mind, I guess for the past couple of years, I've had this idea that I was building an infrastructure that gave Chris the option to someday look over and say, hey, you know what? You have been studying radio and broadcasting and engineering and stuff at such a deep technical level and have put way, way more money into broadcasting Linux content than really anybody else is ever going to do because the return on investment is just abysmal. Noah, Altispeed, you handle this. Your stream sounds fantastic. Just tell me what software I have to install or what I have to connect to or what I have to do, and we'll just let you handle that, that final workflow, at least the live part of it. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, man, take my show independent. No, I want to do more for the network, not less. If it's going to be less, I'd rather just go do something else entirely. And so I asked him point blank, what did I do? Even if we part ways, I need to know so that I don't make the same mistake down the road if I go get another job doing broadcast. And he said, you know what? It's not about that. And we had a couple little things. He said, when you're on air, for example, scheduling stuff would be really nice if you'd let us know that you're going to do 9 episodes in a row so that we can plan for that. Communication would be a little nice, but it's not about that. It's just you're doing content at a level that the network was never built for. And so this week's run of shows, you're going to do all these shows, and we're just not doing a daily Linux show. That's not, and I mean, that blacks out the page on Jupiter Broadcasting. So how can you do that? And so your show, it's not that we're mad or upset or anything like that. It's just you're growing at a speed that we're just not ready for. And so, part of that is, understand, we are not just filling content here. Anytime I do anything, I have a very good reason for doing it. And I have insight into things that I'm not always allowed to talk about on air. But when I decide I'm going to kill myself, essentially, to make episodes come out almost every day, I promise you there's an insanely good reason for doing so. And this week's run of episodes, it has not been a bunch of fluff. Every one of these episodes, I think, has something in it for a different audience. Slightly different format, a lot of guests we wouldn't ordinarily have time for, but that offer very important, exciting content. So we had a ton of reasons for doing these last series of episodes. And this is the only way that we could make time for some of those things and be available to cover some breaking news that might happen. But I see his point. It shadows the great work that him and Wes are doing on Unplugged. It shadows the great work that him and Mike are doing on Coder and LAN and all of the other special broadcasts that they're going to do down from LA this week. So I verified a second time. Hey, I just want to make sure that this is strictly a business thing. This is not, you and I are on bad terms, anything like that. And he was very clear. Listen, I'm asking you, is this something that you're interested in doing? Understanding that it's not about our friendship. So we have different goals in broadcasting. I want to do more live stuff. He wants to do more post-production stuff. And since Rakai has left, all of the editing and stuff has changed. And obviously his content has much, much better quality when it actually comes out because the workflow allows for that. And his final product is much cleaner and much tighter than ours. But our product is much better live. It's more driving. I think it's more engaging. We structured the show and put a bunch of money into making the best live podcast available. And there are things that I have not done at Jupiter Broadcasting because the workflow no longer allows for it. The biggest thing of which is a video show. I look over at what the Destination Linux guys are doing, and I've guest hosted on there, and that's just very, very cool. And I want to get back to that. I miss that Linux Action Show style of friendly, casual, bounciness, I guess. 93% of all communication is nonverbal. So if we're doing an audio only show like you're getting with this show, I'm communicating 7% to what I'm actually feeling. And that's really where I draw my strength from, is my emotion, my feeling, and my passion. So I would like to do video shows. I would like to do a daily show, which is part of what we were testing this week. Can I commit to a daily broadcast schedule? And yes, it's a lot of work. And yes, it's a lot of money. But I think it's worth it. I think Linux deserves that. So the Ask Noah show has brought you the best live coverage of any event at Self. And I will argue that in 2019, we're going to bring you the best live coverage of every event we go to. But after episode 100, the Ask Noah show will officially be an independent broadcast. Episode 101 will no longer be affiliated with Jupiter Broadcasting. No longer released with Jupiter Broadcasting, will be entirely independent. So what does that mean? Honestly, not that much. The show is going to be at the same time. Chris and I are still friends. We're still going to do events together. I had a very detailed conversation with them about, do you want some help on the engineering side, when you're doing remote broadcast? He goes, yep. I said, great. Could I share a booth with you? Because, you're way better at that kind of stuff than I am. And he said, yeah, that's fine. Chris is going to come on the show. In fact, we were hoping to get him on the past couple of days, but our schedule kept changing around. So maybe he'll be able to join us tomorrow. but I want to have him on for sure at some point within the next week or so, because I'd like you guys to hear his take on all of this. He has a very important story that I am personally emotionally invested in as it relates to him switching a couple of his things to Linux. And I hope that he will share that story exclusively on the Ask Noah show, or break that story anyway. Chat room is asking about Mumble. You know, I haven't had a discussion with him specifically about Mumble, and honestly, my answer today might be a little different than what it would have been before today, because I would have said prior to today, well, the Mumble has always existed outside of Linux Unplugged, has always existed as a community project, and so I feel pretty welcome to use that. However, today, of all days, we actually had a scheduling conflict, and I went and did Ask Noah, and it ended up bumping into his schedule time. So we'll probably use that Mumble as long as I can make 110% sure that we never interfere with anything that they're doing, because obviously, you know, a lot of effort and resources have been put into that specifically to support the network, and I don't want to take away from that at all. Plus, it's not hard to set up a Mumble server. But yeah, and yes, we have an Ask Noah. Room in the Mumble server. Maybe we'll just use that. And of course, obviously, we're using our own IRC server. So if you join us, pound Ask Noah Show on Freenode, make sure to come to AskNoahShow.com. You should have been doing that already, because we have put just an insane amount of money into an audio system capable of delivering a near linear audio quality to your web browser at only 64 kilobits per second. So it's absolutely mobile optimized. Turn on your phone, visit the website, click on the play button, turn the phone back off. You can listen to us anywhere, anytime. Listen to us in your web browser. I think we're the best sounding live show out there. We're currently working with a company to integrate us with Amazon and Alexa, and we're obviously going to continue to work on apps and those kind of integrations, because I think those things are important. Since day one, we are going to continue to dominate the live space, and I feel that us going independent gives us a little bit of freedom to do that, because we can kind of push stuff our own way. So over time we'll transition. Today the chat room is pound Ask Noah Show, and hashtag Ask Noah Show. The chat room is arguing. Every time I say it one way, they tell me it's another way. But most of all, what I want to say is thank you. I want to say thank you to Chris for everything that he has done for me. And I want to say thank you to you, the listener, for being here with us. Obviously, please subscribe to the Ask Noah Show. If you're listening to us in the All Show feed, this will be the second to last episode you'll get in that feed. After that, you'll have to be subscribed to the actual Ask Noah. I look at this as a positive thing. I think that this is a opportunity for us to grow and do the best show we've ever done, and really find our power stroke and kind of get into that. And so I hope that you'll support us. I hope that you'll stay along for the ride. And I hope that you're as excited to see as I am what comes in the future. Again, phone lines are open as always, 1-855-450-NOAH, 855-450-6624. The email, live@AskNoahShow.com. You're on Ask Noah. What's on your mind?
Hey, Noah, it's Chaz. How's your marathon going?
Hey, Chaz. Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, you of all people are a fitting caller to go to after that announcement, because I think if there is a number one fan of the Ask Noah Show, you might be it, or certainly a number one caller.
Yeah, I called in, and I'm thinking, oh, man, I walked into a doozy here. This is going to be interesting.
Well, thanks for hanging in there, Chaz. I appreciate it. How can we help tonight?
Well, I've used Thunderbird currently as my desktop mail client with the standard Ubuntu flavor, minimal installation. And I've been kind of getting some weird behavior out of it lately. And it seems like the answer to said weird behavior, whenever I research it more, is uninstall an add-on. And I'm pretty conservative with the add-ons I install.
Sure.
Generally, they're just the ones that Mozilla has recommended as being the best for a Gmail account, because I think if you turn programs like Thunderbird and Firefox into a Christmas tree, they don't run as well. So it kind of came to the conclusion, well, since I have to keep uninstalling so many add-ons, is Thunderbird really the best option? So I was wondering, is there an Ask Noah Show, an independent Ask Noah Show approved, endorsed, whatever word you want to use, this being Election Day and all, desktop mail clients that you recommend? If it's something other than Thunderbird, that is.
Yeah, I have tried N1 Mail and all of those as they came out, and honestly, Chaz, I haven't found something I like as much as I like Thunderbird.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly definitely the best option I've used as well. I was just wondering if maybe you knew anything that I hadn't turned on to yet. I've tried Mailspring, I've tried Trogido, and thus far Thunderbird seems to be kind of the go-to. Yeah, it does have some things that I wish it could do, like interface with Proton Mail or so on and so forth. But
Chatroom is recommending Teutona Mail and Claus Mail. I've not tried either of those. Of course, and again, I'm a pretty straightforward guy when it comes to mail. I just need the email to show up, and then I read it, and then it goes away. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm maybe not the best person to ask, but I do have a lot of email, and I have a lot of email accounts.
Yeah, I'm actually trying kind of a more multi-account email approach to try to separate the amount of mailing lists and things of that nature I get from when an actual human wants to talk to me. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chaz, I'll keep my eyes peeled, and if I come across something, the thing is, you and I we're a dying breed. Those of us who like local mail clients, all the new kids are going to this web-based nonsense.
It's just a fad.
Yeah, I suppose the cloud is a fad too.
Yeah. Anyway, shameless plug. Fans of the Ask Noah Show, tune into Steve Schmidt's election coverage, and you can hear me tell Noah jokes that I won't be able to repeat here on Family Friendly Radio.
Yep, yeah, that's coming up. It's coming up in just an hour. I appreciate it, Chaz. Thanks for the call. Again, 1-855-450-NOAH, 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. You're on Ask Noah. What's on your mind?
Hey, Noah, it's Steve from Canada. How are you?
Hey, Steve. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I had a question and comment on one of your previous shows. Which one do you want first?
I'll take both. Either one, your choice.
So I was listening to, I can't listen to live all the time, but I was listening to the show about, was it Ravencrest, the open broadcast software?
Yeah, Rivendell, yep.
And Rivendell, yeah. And I thought that speaker did a fantastic job representing his project, and I thought that he did a good job working together with him to explain things. Now, I don't have a particularly vested interest in the product, but I found it interesting the way that you guys both played off each other. I thought that was well done. So I thought I'd give you a little pat on the back on the air.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, he's a hardworking dude, and we just kind of both geeked out and recorded it and released it as an episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. My question for you, and I don't know if you'll be able to solve it, I have a problem with, I have a bunch of monitors plugged into an NVIDIA card, and one of them never comes on when I wake up the computer. Like, I actually have to go and hit the input button. And I just never bothered to try and solve this. I'm running GNOME 3.30 on Arch, and I wondered if you'd run into that and if you have a fix for that.
No, not at all. In fact, I have had actually way better luck on GNOME with multi-monitors, and I've had some weird issues with NVIDIA under KDE, and had a lot better luck with multi-monitor NVIDIA support under GNOME. Yeah,
so the problem is there are 5 monitors, and one of the monitors, when I wiggle the mouse, 4 of them come on, and the 5th one, it doesn't come on until I actually push one of the buttons on the monitor. And I kind of played around with it a little bit and gave up because they're all on monitor arms, so it's not that big of a deal for me. Right. But I thought I'd ask and see if you'd run into that before.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I'm sorry, Steve. That's weird, especially under GNOME. And chat room asks, is one of the screens HDMI? Can the screen use DisplayPort instead of HDMI? I'm wondering if he's not thinking that there's a protection, copy protection kind of a thing.
So the video card has 3 HDMI and 2 display ports, and all of them are used. So 2 of the 3 HDMI ports come on fine, and all the display ports come on just fine. It's just the one of them, and it doesn't matter. I have Acer and Asus monitors, and it doesn't matter the brand. It seems to always do that. Like, the one on that port always seems to do that.
Huh. Yeah, that is extraordinarily strange. I'm sorry about that. I wish I had a better answer for you. Fortunately, I've just not really run into that. And I'm glad. Good. I hope it's as terrible as this is to say, I hope it's an isolated issue.
Yeah, me too. I also heard Chaz asking about mail clients. I'm always surprised that nobody ever recommends Evolution. I've been a big fan of Evolution for a long time. Actually, it enabled me to do my job in the early 2000s and onward with its compatibility with Exchange and stuff like that. And it's still my favorite go-to if I'm going to use Fat Client.
Yeah, I've heard that for people that wanted integration with Microsoft services, that was kind of their bridge. So that was pretty cool. I've never really been a fan of Evolution for some reason. I used it way back in the day, and I've since brought it up a couple of times. For me, it doesn't do anything that Thunderbird doesn't do. But I guess to your point, it probably doesn't have some of the extension issues that Thunderbird has.
Yeah, it plugs in. You have to create a one-time password or an app password or whatever Gmail calls it in order to log in, especially if you have two-factor authentication. But I've never had a problem with it.
Yeah, I kind of question if, again, what concerns me is I feel like the development for locally run mail clients is quickly dying because everybody is going to web-based and cloud-based clients.
Yep, I agree.
Anyway, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate the call, and thanks again for your support of the Ask Noah show. I was so some of you know I've been doing some guest hosting with my friends from Destination Linux, and we were talking about Arco Linux, and I must live under a rock because I'd not heard of it before, and I started playing around with it. And the thing that immediately appealed to me about Arco Linux is it quite literally is a Linux distro for a geek. It's a Linux distro for those that like to play around with Linux distros. So I started playing with it, and you could immediately tell when you're using this that the guy who designed it knows a lot about teaching other people about Linux. And it turns out the lead developer, Eric Dubois, is a former teacher, former educator. And so the way his mind works is able to look at an end goal in mind, look at an end destination in mind, look at where we are now, and then he's able to help you get from point A to point B. And that really appealed to me. And so I reached out to Eric and I said, hey, I just want to let you know you have a really great product. And after I chatted with him a little bit, I started to understand that he is a very intelligent, very well, he thinks about things at a very high level and then can dig into them. And I thought, what a great opportunity for somebody like this to explain their passion, their project to other people. So a lot of people tend to think of Arch Linux as this kind of Linux that you don't use unless you really understand Linux. Well, he has a different approach. Arco Linux and Eric Dubois designed a spin, I guess, or a offshoot of Arch that is specifically designed to give you sane defaults so you're up and running right away, but it will let you, within reason, kind of break out of your shell. And but it never lets you actually hurt yourself. He has all of these scripts that are there that will prevent you from really ever getting into any serious trouble. So, without further ado, joining me on the program, lead developer for Arco Linux, arcolinux.info, is Mr. Eric Dubois. Hey, Eric, welcome to the Ask Noah show.
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, welcome. So, I guess let's start with this. What is Arco Linux?
Well, Arco Linux is actually a Linux project based on Arch Linux. So it all started when I was back developer in Arch Labs. I found this great diamond in the rough at some point, February 2017. And that's how I became a developer in some sense. And at some point in time I was building the ISOs, and from there, well, that wasn't the avalanche or the roller coaster I've been doing last months. Mm-hmm. That's how everything started.
How did Arco Linux become into existence? If you were going to be a developer, obviously you could have chosen to develop for Arch proper, or maybe Manjaro. Instead, you have
Debian.
Yeah, exactly, or even Debian.
Or Debian.
So why Arco Linux?
Well, like I said, a year ago, 2 years ago, let's say, if you check out my YouTube movies, you see that I was involved in Linux Mint, version 16 maybe, even 15, as early as that. So I was in the Debian world, and I was exploring everything and making tutorials on ericdubois.pe. And I was learning Debian, right? I was learning how to script. I was making Sardi icons. I was scripting back then to embellish your desktop, how to get software on there, etc. So that was interesting to have that knowledge already. And then at some point I discovered Arch Linux, and I did the Arch way installation. Everything in a terminal, everything black. You don't know what to press, what to do. And the only thing you have is the Arch wiki. But being probably a teacher myself, I like the idea of the wiki of Arch Linux. It teaches you a lot, maybe too much.
Mm-hmm. For
beginners in Linux, you don't know what to press first, what to try first. So that's maybe the disadvantages of the wiki. But if you know what to use, what you need, if you know what you need to get your system going, then the Arch wiki is just heaven. Everything is on there. So that's 3 years back. I kind of fell in love with the way Arch Linux is. It feels to me like it's a Lego box. I can use Arch Linux components and say, this time I'm going to have XFCE. But the next day I'm going to say I'm going to install OpenBox. And next day I'm going to install BSPWM, etc. And that's a feeling I've never had on Debian or on Linux Mint for that matter. Although I was trying already a few years ago, because I installed i3 on Linux, on Ubuntu, on Linux Mint on Ubuntu and all these solos even. So I have lots of tutorials on ericdubois.be making the transference or the migration from what I understand is i3 to all the different Linux distributions. And that's when I found that Arch Linux was capable of providing me 1, knowledge, 2, versatility, 3, new stuff, always updating. And those elements triggered something in me. And at some point in time, like I said, in February 2017, I came across Arch Labs. And then I became member of Arch Labs. I became a forum member. And at some point, I became the ISO builder. So I made the ISO for Arch Labs. That's how I got into it. That's how I evolve. It evolves, right?
Absolutely. So Arco Linux, from what I'm understanding, is really ideal for somebody who wants to learn about Linux because you designed it as a tinkerer for other tinkers. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that's a good expression. A tinkerer. Yeah.
When you
I like to call it the Lego. I like to play with my Lego, even worse maybe.
Yeah, adult Legos for developers maybe.
That's it. Hey, good phrase.
Yeah, you're welcome to steal that. Who is the target audience for Arco Linux when you're sitting down, when you're writing code, Eric? When you're looking at features to implement, or you're looking at where the next place is to go. Who do you have in mind? Who are you thinking of?
Well, I have different people in mind. First off, I've taught Arco Linux at my school, at my university. So I've people in front of me who don't know nothing about Linux. Really, they don't know. I have to tell what Linux is. Okay. So that's very basic people, right? So these students in front of me in my class, I teach them. Some of them bring their old laptop, and the others have to do it in VirtualBox, and they get acquainted with Arch Linux. But the first thing I think is best for any starter is XFCE. We have these 3 desktops that are on one ISO. XFCE, OpenBox, and i3 are just on one ISO.
Mm-hmm.
And XFCE is for most part of the people who follow my teachings, who follow my course. They say, okay, XFCE, I get XFCE after a while, even after a while. Coming from Windows, it's still, it's a puzzle for them. And it's good, because a puzzle is fun. If you start learning BSPWM and you have never learned about it, it's the puzzle that triggers you. It's the finding out and learning about a desktop that's fun. And that's our credo: learn, have fun, and enjoy. So that's one of the goals, personal goals, why I'm doing all this, because learning is fun for me.
That's great.
So Cool. We see lots of people. We see people who have no experience in Linux. We have people who have wandered about, like distro hoppers, right? And say, I'm going to stay here. This is it. This is it. I found it. People who keep hopping, of course, which is good because we get, we call it cross virtualization, you know, get ideas from other distros. They do this. Why don't you do that? Questions like that. But it's all kind of people we get. We get also the really, well, the archway people or the people who say, I want to build up everything from scratch, you know. Give me a terminal and I'll do it.
That's cool. That's very cool. So when for somebody that's maybe looking to get interested in Linux and they look out and they say, okay, well, I have the Ubuntus of the world. I have the Linux Mints of the world. I have the Soluses of the world. But you're telling me that you don't have to be a Linux expert to use Arco Linux. The experience that's necessary for someone is not much.
No, I don't think so. XFC is a wonderful desktop to start off, I think. There are others, of course. But for a starter, I think that's an ideal desktop to start off. And it's fast as well. So it's very easy to use. Yeah, I think so.
Obviously, there's a reason to include, you know, every window manager or, you know, tiling window manager. I think that, you know, depending on who you are, you have a different work style. And so every distribution should offer as many as possible. But for this particular distribution, and given what I understand about the target audience and kind of how you went to develop it, why the inclusion of a tiling window manager? Do you find that a lot of people that are looking to experiment and play with Linux are interested in tiling window managers?
No, I think it's about 10% of our audience that uses tiling managers, but it's maybe I'm an ambassador for these desktops because I remember 3 years ago when I first started with i3, I thought, what is this? Such rubbish. It was a black screen and it had a bar with some icons on it. That's it. I said, and now? What now? So I've been building that i3 configuration over the years, and I've put it inside Arch Labs first and R2D2, and then it moved back to Arch Merge and then to Arco Linux. So yeah, the config is important, and we do get lots of compliments about i3, saying it's the nicest looking, because that's who I am. I don't like an empty desktop in the sense that I want my wallpaper. I mean, it's a great resolution to have a beautiful wallpaper, even on i3. And everything just well works with shortcuts, of course, keyboard shortcuts then. So everything is tuned to the max, I suppose, the way we want it. And the fun is, if you start out, for instance, an i3, let's assume you started with Arco Linux, then you have XFCE, maybe you go to OpenBox, or maybe just skip it and go to i3. And later you say, I'm going to check out BSPWM because Eric is very enthusiastic about it, and it is. I am. Then you'll see that the keyboard shortcuts are everywhere the same. So your fingers already know what to press. They already starting Ctrl-Alt-V for Vivaldi or F for Firefox. It just works. The same shortcuts everywhere, and that's something that I think is powerful as well.
What I'm hearing is I can see the gears working inside of your head to create and craft this product that is very intuitive and very understandable from somebody that's coming at it from a learning perspective. And I'm wondering, has that occurred to you that you may be well more positioned than most people to educate people on Linux or to design a Linux system for people to learn because of your given life experience?
Yes, that's what the comments are on YouTube. So thank God you're here and thank you for helping. So we have on arcolinux.info, we have here a third-party testimonials. You can check it out, arcolinux.info, third-party testimonials. And sometimes I just copy-paste something that I feel that we feel, hey, this is motivating. This is why we do it. People expressing their gratitude for, well, sharing the knowledge, basically. That's exactly what we're doing. We're making something, of course. We're creating an ISO, a Linux version. But it doesn't end there. We educate you. We give you lots of YouTube tutorials. I think I'm around 600 videos already.
Wow.
So yeah, if you want to learn, you can learn.
We'll have a link to Eric's YouTube channel in the show notes. You can head over to podcast.asknoahshow.com. Check those out. Eric, what is Arco Linux B?
Well, you jumped one. There is also Arco Linux D.
Okay, let's start with that. That's fine.
So, if you go to arcolinux.info and try to be as constructive on my website as I can be, as translucent, is that the word? How transparent, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's this link here that says projects. And Arco Linux has 3 major projects. And it's just the way things went over time. So let's start way back. Okay, Arch Labs. Arch Labs was OpenBox, right? OpenBox Desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Then came first came Arch Labs 3.2D2, R2D2, sorry. Then we included i3 already. So we had a merger of OpenBox and i3. Then we had to split off, and then we had Arco Linux, Arch Merge we launched in September 2017. But at that point I thought, well, the pieces came together and I said, okay, we have already OpenBox and i3, but why not merge it with XFCE? Because lots of elements on OpenBox were already XFCE. We just didn't have the desktop XFCE. So Arch Merge came in existence, XFCE, OpenBox, i3. 3 things. Then the comment came, oh, it's too bloated, there's too much software and all that. And then we responded with the creation of Arco Linux D.
Okay.
Arco Linux D, the D stands for you choose the desktop. You decide it. And what's this? That's a base Arco Linux. You get a graphical installer. It's not Arch Linux. It's not a black screen and you start typing your commands. No, you have still Calamares, right? The graphical installer. And once that's done, you reboot and you're in a black screen. Then you follow tutorials online how to install OpenBox, i3, BSP, WM, Plasma. We have 11 desktops to choose from. All scripts, they're all ready. And a script, the fun or the power of a script is it's a text. Delete a line, add a line, and it's your script.
Right.
So you reuse our code. We promote it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
It is,
because at the end you put in LibreOffice or you put in OpenOffice. It's your choice. You run the script. You edit the script.
You give people just enough freedom to be able to do what they want to do, to let them explore a little bit, but you don't give them enough freedom to let them hurt themselves. You still have some guardrails up and kind of guide them down the path. I really like that approach.
Yeah, it's a learning approach, right? You hold your hand first with the Arco Linux ISO, XFCE OpenBox i3. Then we let you loose on a base ISO, Arco Linux D. And the D, well, you learn how to work in a terminal and to run scripts and edit scripts. There is Arco Linux B. And in B, we got the idea, why not give the people the power to build the ISO? The B stands for build your own ISO. Means that you run a script, just one, 30. You run script 30. You decide, hey, I want to have Steam. I want to have that game, or I want to have Firefox. I don't want to have Firefox, right? It's just a file. It's called packages. You put a hashtag in front of a line. It means it will not be installed on your ISO. You want something extra, you type the letters, extra. And then you run the script 30, and your end result is something you would download from any Linux distribution. It's called an ISO. An ISO is burnt on a USB, and USB is then installed on an SSD or a VirtualBox if you want.
Sure.
So it's another way of providing power to the people. Say, look, our ISO is not good. It's never going to be good. Not for 7 billion of people. Never, ever. So you decide what goes on. Here's the power, here's the ISO, here's the script, here's the package. Put on it what you want. It's your freedom. And Linux is always been about freedom. So
freedom of choice, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're nailing both of those. Do you think, Eric, that it is dangerous to have the most bleeding edge packages available to these users? Do you find users getting themselves in trouble because they maybe downloaded a package, like you said, it was bleeding edge, but maybe it wasn't quite ready for people to use, or people hadn't quite tested the interoperability with other software? Or have you found that to not be really an issue?
People keep saying that about Arch Linux, and it's so not true. It's so not true. After 3 years of using Arch Linux, there are not so much problem. There are always problems on any distro, any Linux distro.
Right.
But they're all solvable, right? And if you go and look on archlinux.com, for instance, we can see that there is a menu called Fixes. So if something pops up and we see something is not working, not an hour later there's a video and article how to solve it. And not only that, I always try to make you independent, self-reliant. So while I am telling you how to solve an issue that pops up, it can be anything. And most of the time it's a human error. It's like, oh yeah, the developer forgot this or forgot that. And if you fix this, it's easily fixed sometimes, but if somebody tells you how to fix it, then it becomes clear. It's, it's just that, right?
Right.
So these fixes, these elements that pop up from time to time, I'll have an article and a video with it, and that's that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You take
yeah,
care of those users.
Voila, that's it actually, yeah. We take care of the users. If there is an issue, we have the same issue. Sure. So we'll fix it. Why not share the knowledge of how to fix it? Because sometimes it's like the developer is on holiday, right? And it means that the download has changed or the checksum is not correct anymore, etc., etc. It can be so many things that can go wrong. With these AOR builds, I'm thinking about AOR. Maybe you know already what that is?
I went the last 2 or 3 years. I was an Arch user and fantastic. But you know what?
Fine.
There's probably those in the audience that
for
don't.
The users.
Yeah.
Let's say so. Arch Linux. There are the packages from the Arch Linux distro. Yeah, and there are the AOR Arch user repositories, and those things are not Arch Linux. They specifically say that on the website. We do not support it, right? But the fun stuff is in the Arch user repositories.
And the useful stuff?
Useful. Spotify, I know, Dropbox, anything really. Anything fun. Of course, GIMP is there, Inkscape is in Arch Linux, but like Telegram, for instance, is it still? Yeah, it's still already in the Arch. So things move along, you know. When something is really good, it moves from the AOR to the Arch packages, and sometimes as well from the Arch to the AOR packages again. But the point is, if packages break from time to time, it only means that the update is not available, but the program still works. The application still works. You don't need to have a bleeding edge Dropbox. It will work. The old version will work as well as a newer version, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, people say, oh, there's an error. So it's an update issue. Something went wrong in the link or whatever. And we analyze it together. I teach you how to fix it yourself. But in the end, the developer, of course, will fix it and will. It takes like 2-3 days often, and the AOR packages are fixed. But everything works in your system, so the viewers, the listeners, I mean, so that I know everything will work. It will just not update until this AOR maintainer will fix it. Simple as that.
Well, that's great, and for anybody that is getting into Arch or plans on using Arch, embrace the AUR, because the AUR is what makes Arch great. And if you're against the AUR for any reason, then it kind of eliminates the entire real competitive advantage of Arch. One of the things I like about Arch, and I would assume by extension Arco Linux, is that there isn't a package in the world that isn't available on Arch. If something's out, somebody has put it in the AOR.
Yeah, And if it's not, I'll put it there.
That's great. Hey, Eric, what do you think about using Arco Linux as a daily driver? I mean, you've designed it so well to be this, for people to get involved and learn about Linux. What if somebody is just looking for, desktop Linux? They just want to install it, maybe put it on some business machines, that kind of thing. Is Arco Linux ready for that?
I think so. If you hear people, they say, I switched over. It's my main computer now. Arco Linux is the way to go. I have a desktop. I put Arco Linux D or B, for instance, on the laptop. I mean, so yeah, people are switching over definitely, finally to Arco Linux. Yeah.
You guys are a desktop Linux first, right? Like, I'm sure there's somebody out there that has probably used Arco Linux on a server somewhere, but you're focused on the desktop experience and the desktop users.
And the laptop users, yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, that's absolutely fantastic, Aaron. I just want to congratulate you on a job well done and for filling a truly, I think, underserved niche, which is that new user that's coming in that they don't want Mac OS with Linux kernel. They want, a compatible modular operating system that they can play with and that they can tinker with. And like you've said numerous times, they want an adult Lego box. They want to play with that, and I think Arco Linux fits that bill, and that's why we're so excited to be able to get you on the show and to kind of pick your brain about this. So thanks so much for taking the time. Eric Dubois is his name, lead developer of Arco Linux, arcolinux.info, ericdubois.be on Twitter, @EricDubois. Eric, thanks so much for taking the time to be here. We'll get you back on the program real soon.
All right, great. See you soon.
1-855-450-NOAH, that's 855-450-6624. You're on Ask Noah. What's on your mind?
Hi, Noah. It's Dahmer, actually. I have a Lenovo TS140 sitting here, and I'm trying to get Linux set up for it for local business. But no matter what we do, we can't get the Ethernet controller to work. It doesn't seem like either the kernel doesn't load or it doesn't seem to just see that it's there. It's just a basic Intel chip. It's just E2000D, and it pops up in LSPCI, but I can't get it to communicate with anything.
Man, that is interesting. Does it show up when you list like the network adapters? Can you see it in there, even if you can't assign an IP or anything?
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set up elementary, just because it's going to be like the front desk computer for like people to look up like parts and stuff. Because like they do order parts in for people and stuff, and so it's just easier. Search this, make a list, bam, there we go. And maybe we'll just use another machine, but it'd just be convenient to have this. It doesn't pop up in like the little drop-down menu.
Sure.
But it pops up in the terminal, like it shows up. And when I go into the BIOS, even if I reset the BIOS and go back, it doesn't show up.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I've tried in Arch, but it doesn't. I don't know.
I tell you what, it sounds like dumber. It sounds like a firmware issue. I wish I had more time to discuss it. Unfortunately, I'm up against top of the clock, and we've got a busy broadcast schedule the rest of the night. So unfortunately, the best thing I can tell you, if I woke up in your shoes, what I would do, I'd run down to Best Buy, $35, and I'd pick up one of those little USB adapters, and I'd use that. Brad Schmidt out at the Ground Round tonight, covering the election coverage. Hey, Brad.
Hey, man, how we doing?
Pretty good. So we got about 30 seconds before our top of the hour music kicks in. Tell us what we got coming up at 8 o'clock tonight.
Election coverage, electioncoverage.vote. Come on out to the Ground Round in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and hang out with us.
We're going to have people stopping by. We're going to have some, who's calling in?
Jeff Johnson, running for governor of Minnesota, Kevin Kramer, a whole bunch of them. We've got Dave Hughes in Minnesota CD7, Kelly Armstrong running in North Dakota. We got a whole bunch of guests lined up.
So this is going to be an exciting night, and people can come out. They can join with us. If let's say they're sick of politics, they say, I'm not interested in politics. Usually that's not for me. This might be the coverage for them, though, right?
Oh yeah, this is going to be just a lot of fun. Is essentially what we're going to do. We're actually at a restaurant. We're set up. There's people sitting around eating and enjoying the evening. We got CNN and Fox News on the TVs, and we've got sports over on one TV, and all kinds of stuff going on.
And they say, I had somebody say, they told me the other day, they said that they didn't know if they were going to be there late enough for them. We're starting, of course, at 8 o'clock. We'll be there well into the night. So make sure to check it out. Head over to podcast.asknoahshow. Make sure to subscribe, guys.